All right, welcome into another episode of the Armchair Titans podcast. Austin Nelson here with Brett Batchelor and Noah McKay. And we have a pretty special guest on tonight, a guy that we all look up to, listen to every day, my friend, Mickey Ryan. You can follow him on Twitter at Mickey Ryan1045. What is going on, Mickey?
Gentlemen, thanks for having me. This is awesome. I never hung out on Google before.
Pleasure is all ours. I mean, we were so excited and ecstatic to see you on here and be talking Titans with you. We had a few guests on before. We've had Nate Bain on. You probably seen Nate around the building and whatnot. From
I know Bane. He's the Superman villain.
that is yes, that is him.
No, Bane is my man. He is killing it with the Titans on social media.
Agreed.
Absolutely killing it.
Agreed. Yeah, he put some great stuff out there. So yeah, we had him on and kind of just talked to him and had some funny stories about him. And he had some good stuff to say about Lawan and things like that. So we knew that if we brought you on, we could talk about anything because where your head goes and what you talk about it can go anywhere. So we just want to talk today about, the biggest news probably of the day was, the draft, the Titans in Nashville getting the 2019 NFL draft. What were your first initial thoughts about that?
It's funny, when this came up, there were announced 5 finalists for 2 drafts for 2019 and 2020. And 2019 is the 100th year of the NFL as a league. And so imagine how special that is for anything to have a centennial, if it's a town or a city or a state or especially a professional sports league. So if you would have taken me to Las Vegas, which was one of the cities that made me bet on something, I would have bet on 2019 being the combination of Cleveland and Canton, Ohio, just because Canton is kind of the mothership of football with the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And those finalists were announced a long time ago. And at that time, we have a guy on our show every week named Todd Furman, he used to set the odds for Caesar's Palace. And I asked him today when the process started, what would Nashville have been? And he said, probably 4-1 or 5-1 to have had a shot to land either one of those drafts. So to be the winner out of the 5 and get the first draft they awarded it's an amazing deal. We thought Vegas might get the other one just because of them building a new stadium and getting the Raiders, but I think all pro sports league. Look at the MLS guys. Nashville was a long shot to get an MLS franchise, and who got it? Nashville. So what the Predators are doing on a nightly basis, and especially during the playoffs, and what sorry, I gotta let my dog in the room. You guys are getting a good look at family life.
Good.
Coco the dog. So I think the other pro sports leagues had to be looking at what the Nashville Predators were doing on a night in, night out basis. And once the playoffs started, and I think that was huge. But to me, the All-Star Weekend for the NHL may be the greatest showcase that the city of Nashville has had in a sports standpoint, and they pulled it off without a hitch. I mean, if you guys went down there, the whole downtown was like a winter wonderland. I mean, it was just nuts, and it was so cool. And then all those playoff games with Carrie Underwood and all the famous singers and just the honky-tonks and Broadway – I think the rest of the sports world looked and said, we have to tap into that no matter what. And the culmination, guys, I don't know if any of you guys went down for the uniform reveal.
Yeah.
But we went down after our show and just kind of took it all in. And there were a whole bunch of NFL officials there. And I remember saying maybe it was Rhett Bryan of Titans Radio, how could you leave here and not say this city is ready for prime time? And I guess that was the final straw when the NFL sent some of their guys here and they left. I think that was the deal where they said 25,000 people showed up to see a jersey.
Yeah.
So that's what did it. But guys, I mean, I moved here originally in 1997 was when I first moved to Nashville, and I was here until 2010 and gone for 5 years and came back. But if you told me, hey, at that time in 2019, you'll have the draft here. The Predators are going to be a Stanley Cup finalist. I don't know if anybody would have believed you what downtown has become and the power of sports in Nashville. That's a really long answer. Sorry.
No, but you're right.
It's true.
Yeah.
And
talking about the uniform, I think like with all the Preds stuff, it was clear that Nashville could throw a party and that they were a hockey town. But Nissan Stadium, let's not act like it's been full lately for the past few seasons, right? I mean, week 1 and then you get late in the season and there's a lot of empty seats in there. So from a national football perspective, I think people were hesitant to say Nashville's the football town and they could throw a football party. And then we had that uniform unveiling. And it's clear that the fans are still here and they'll throw a party for anything, especially football, especially sports. So I think, like you said, that had to be the straw that broke the camel's back with that. There were so many people. You look at the pictures, you can put them side by side with the Stanley Cup final and it looked like almost identical. I mean, and if they get anything like that for the draft, it's going to be one of the coolest drafts that we've ever had, no doubt.
Well, the numbers that you want to hit, Dallas had 450,000 people. They had 450,000 people through the gates for all 3 days of events. So that's the threshold that Nashville will try to break. I know that, we'll want to have 500,000 people. If Dallas had 450,000. The other thing is there were 45 million people that watched the draft this year on every television platform that aired it, and that's a record too. So think about that, guys. 45 million people could be watching Nashville, in 11 months from now for the draft. It's just staggering. And as a city, what would it cost if you said we want to run a 30-second commercial to 45 million people? Guys, this is going to be 3 days of all Nashville all the time on international TV. It's just mind-blowing.
Yeah, and mind you, there's going to be hopefully Predators playoff games happening at the same time and a marathon happening downtown.
And a marathon, too. I think they should just have another CMA Fan Fest, too, just to throw, 60,000 more people down there for kicks and giggles.
Now, what I'm concerned about is where they'll put it. So I know it worked out perfectly for the unveiling to put it right down on Broadway by the river. But Mickey, have you heard anything? Do you know where they would think to put it? Would it be Bridgestone, a Sin Amphitheater? Would they want to do it, on Broadway just to have the atmosphere? What are you thinking?
Today in the announcement, the visitor and the Visitors Bureau, whoever made the announcement with the Nashville Sports Council, there were several entities involved. When they made the announcement, they actually named several downtown locations. They named Broadway and Lower Broadway, and the stadium was talked about being used, and the Ryman was talked about being used. Honestly, guys, I'm convinced that they'll work several major landmark and Ascend Amphitheater as well. I'm convinced they'll work several of those landmarks into what they do just because – and the other thing that was mentioned as well is Nashville's a walkable city as far as downtown. So if you think about it, if you just said, I'm going to park my car, and if they've got a stage at the end of Broadway, and then if Ascend Amphitheater has a stage, and then if they're announcing picks from Bridgestone or from wherever, if they've got, all the guys with their tables set up in the Ryman who make the picks for their teams – you could walk to any of those places in 5 or 10 minutes.
Right.
So I think they'll shut down all of downtown, starting at the arena on both sides, on Demonbreun or Division rather, as well as Broadway. And I think they'll just shut them down and all the through streets in between, all the way down to the river, and just lay it out down there. The one thing that was mentioned today specifically, and it could change, it's all just a concept at this time, was doing some of the interactive stuff across the river at the Titans Stadium. So you'd go and kick a football through a goalpost or throw at a target. Or if you guys have ever been to the Super Bowl, we're really lucky. We get to go and do our shows from Super Bowl Media Row every year. And they always have an NFL fan experience, which is unbelievable. And they may wind up doing that at the Titans Stadium. But that'd be worth going down there for, just to walk through it. The NFL does such a great job of that stuff.
Bro, you got anything?
I didn't know if you had another question or not, but I was just kind of thinking of all the other locations that they could possibly, do the draft. I didn't know if Centennial Park, I don't know if that's like kind of close to downtown if they would do that. But I mean, just the whole things that are going on with the marathon and the draft, and just how I think just like we've been saying so far about how Nashville can really throw a party. I think this just adds on to what could go on in the future. I mean, obviously, Nashville and Titans probably won't get a Super Bowl unless they build a dome stadium because it's too cold and it's not quite big of a city yet to host the Super Bowl. But just the availability that the city as a whole has, I think really played a huge, huge factor of getting the draft in the first place.
Well, I want to say that the figure given for hotel rooms today was 29,000, with 2 more that would be ready by the time the draft is here. So that puts us at 31,000 hotel rooms, which is just staggering.
Right.
31,000 hotel rooms in the city. So, and by the time you could, well, if Briley wins mayor or whomever wins mayor, they've got to start talking about the next football stadium.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And it has to be, guys, the model now is something that can be open or it can be closed, something with a lot of glass and a lot of windows. The one that the Vikings built looks like a battleship, an old Viking ship.
Right.
So you got to do something pretty amazing. And our weather is such in the South. There's, in October, it's usually really nice, and even some games in November. So I think they'd want one that you could open or close. But if they want a Super Bowl, if they want a Final Four, if you want all those type of things, whomever the next mayor is, that's going to have to be on their plate. And part of their agenda is what happens with the stadium and what does the next stadium look like. But whichever one of you guys said, that's the next piece. It is, but the stadium has to be the piece that goes with it. So
do you think that's interesting you say that, because I you almost want to say, they've done so many renovations making it to Nissan Stadium, making it, one of, I would say, the nicer stadiums in the league. With now they have Wi-Fi and you can hear the music behind your seats and things like that. Do they? I mean, are we talking about a brand new stadium, or are we just renovating and growing and expanding the one we have now?
I don't think you could do that with the one they have now. I don't think the infrastructure would allow for it. Now, I'm not an engineer, nor have I ever played one on TV. But I don't think that you could make that stadium compliant with what you would need. Now, if you guys were around 20 years ago when it opened, which you guys are all young, you were little bitty, but
I was 3 and 4.
Okay. It was concrete walls and nothing painted. It looked like an institution, not a stadium. But the football was so good, people didn't care.
People didn't care.
But, when you drive by there now, there are those huge posters of the former players, and the light standards have been repainted, and the walls, there's a whole lot of walls that are painted with Titan logos and, red and navy blue and the Columbia blue. They've done a whole lot to it. But if you add up everything they've done over the years, it's really just been more maintenance than anything else, just keeping it in good enough shape to host events. I would think they're going to have to just start all over again. And my goodness, guys, what are we talking about? $1 billion?
A massive amount of money.
Put it at? Where are we going to put it at?
Yeah, exactly. That was kind of my question about it. If they were to build a new stadium, if that's their next plan, because the soccer stadium is going back to the fairgrounds, unless something major happens, that's where the soccer stadium is going to go. And so, one, what would the price be and where would they put it? And 2, what would they have to put inside the stadium to make it this new era type of stadiums? Because NRG Stadium is pretty nice in Houston. The Cowboys Stadium is obviously awesome. And then the U.S. Bank Stadium in Minnesota, like we said, is absolutely massive. So what would this stadium have to look like to make it known that, okay, this is a place where we can come, and 1, it's a good experience for the fans, there's good football, and 3, we can host the events that we want to host here?
Well, I think the ability to make it an open-air stadium if you chose, so, one of those dual-purpose deals with a roof that opens, I think is a must. I think it has to be on the modern cutting edge of technology and fan experience. There was a study done, and it was actually, I saw it on Twitter today, one of the TV ratings Twitter accounts put it out, and it talked about how, NASCAR is losing fans of a certain age. It was Generation X, which is my generation, versus millennials, which is you guys' generation. And it showed that basically soccer and MMA and golf are up. Everything else is even or down, including the NFL with millennial viewers. So you've got to find a way to make things more interactive. You've got to find a way to give people something they can't just get sitting home watching an 80-inch plasma screen. You got to make it worth their while. And I think you have to be more interactive, because I mean, gosh, guys, I'll be 50 years old this year. I mean, I remember just going to games and just watching the games. And when there was no ball being played, you just sat there during a timeout. Yeah, I mean, there was no hot dog race or anything on the Jumbotron or no zany mascot antics. You just sat there until they started playing again.
Yeah.
People won't do that anymore. They have to be entertained all the time, and I'm guilty of that too because we have a phone in our hand that can take us anywhere in the world, anytime that we pick it up and, crack open Twitter. So I would make it extremely interactive. I would put comfortable seats everywhere. Stadiums used to have terrible seats.
Yes.
They had a bench, and the OSHA now, who's the people that says you have to be compliant and your doors have to be this wide and you have to have this many handicap seating and ramps. They're the people that police all that stuff. Well, OSHA now says the human butt size has gone from like 18 inches to 22 inches. And that's true. All of our butts are probably bigger than they used to be. But I would make every seat with a cup holder. I would have a place to put somebody's phone built into the cup holder. I would make it so that it was as comfortable as you guys sitting at home in your favorite chair watching it on TV. And you didn't ask me this, but if I was Vanderbilt, I would build that same kind of stadium for like 40,000 people.
Right.
Yes.
Agreed.
But if you're the Titans, you're going to spend $1 billion. I would have a stadium that literally sitting in that stadium would be like sitting at home watching the game. And the other thing I would do is I'd build a geo fence, and I would have content for people on their phones that you could only get if you were within the perimeter of that stadium. And as for where I would put it, if you are, and this is great radio or, great Google Hangout, I would, because I'm seeing it in my mind. If you've got your back and you're looking, let's say you're standing at the end of Broadway and you're looking across the river at the Titans Stadium. If you look to the right, there's a weird statue, but behind it is this scrap metal place.
Yeah.
I would put it where the scrap metal place is.
That's right.
There's space to put it. I'd put it right there. And as soon as I was done building it, I'd bulldoze the other one, and I'd have more parking than you could ever imagine.
Yeah, I think building a new stadium, you would have to keep it somewhat close to downtown. Because if you go too far out, people on the south side wouldn't want to drive as far. People on the north side wouldn't want to drive as far. I think keeping it at least somewhat close to downtown would have to be towards the top of the list.
Especially considering how booming downtown is right now.
Exactly.
And the whole idea and the thing that makes Nashville so unique, and Greg Sankey, who's the commissioner of the SEC, he said this to us before, when the SEC basketball tournaments come to Nashville. He said, people get downtown, they park their car in the hotel garage, they watch basketball, they eat, they drink, and they listen to music and get entertained until they're ready to get back in their car and go home. And think about how unique that is, guys. Think about all the other downtowns and all the other big cities. They're not like that. It's spread out. The stadium's not near anything. It has to be downtown, and it has to be right next to or right on where the current one is now.
Yeah, and for comparison, I remember the playoff game in Arrowhead in Kansas City. I mean, Arrowhead is nowhere near downtown Kansas City.
No,
it's
at all.
It's basically in, Oklahoma. I mean, it's so far away.
It was a night. I mean, and so if you want to do something downtown before or after the game, you're going to drive 20 minutes. I mean, we're definitely spoiled in Nashville with that, and you can't ruin that moving the stadium somewhere else.
That's kind of like what it is with the Cardinal Stadium, University of Phoenix Stadium. I've been there before, and so we were staying just outside Phoenix. And so you get out of Phoenix and you drive on the interstate, and it's a good 30, 35 minutes out there. And you're going down the interstate, and all you can see is desert. And you look out to the side, and there's stadium. Now, granted, once you get inside, it's a great stadium. It's nice. You got the escalators going everywhere. They get a good fan experience. It's big for enough walking room, but it's in the middle of nowhere, so there's nothing to do around the stadium.
Yeah, I think it's imperative that the stadium gets built downtown for all the reasons that we're all saying.
Can you imagine, just going back to the draft real quick, maybe live on national TV during the third day, just Mel Kiper and Todd McShay eating hot chicken?
Oh, I think not only eating hot chicken, but on a pedal tavern while on.
It would be amazing TV. Like, it's going to happen somewhere. It's going to happen with somebody But that's all I'm looking forward to is that, and Vince Young calling somebody else's name wrong on TV. So,
well, they're no doubt going to put Kirk Herbstreit in the middle of a bachelorette party on a pedal tavern while they're all eating hot chicken and breaking down draft picks. This city, boys, they're going to hit it out of the park.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Something else we just want to hit on right now, Mickey's. OTAs are going on, and you're there with watching and seeing what's going on. What are you seeing? What guys are out there? I mean, you can talk about the rookies right now too, with Evans and Harold Landry. What are you seeing out there? How is Mike Vrabel and the rest of the coaching staff kind of meshing right now with the new team?
Well, I've covered a lot of college football teams, and these guys coach like a college staff. Like they're in the drills. So if Vrabel comes over to your drills and you're working on pass rush, then he smacks you with a dummy when you run by him. Or if you're working on coverage concepts, you have to cover him.
I love that.
I've seen him get covered by, Rashaan Evans at the rookie minicamp, and he was working with the safeties and the cornerbacks. We've only gotten to see one day of rookie minicamp and one day of OTAs, and we were out there. Gosh, what is today? Wednesday. We were out there yesterday, Tuesday, and he was working with LaShawn Sims. And they basically had one guy catching a ball and the other guy with his back to the person throwing the ball, and you had to react to where the ball hit the guy in the hands and try to strip it out. In the NFL, a lot of times the ball goes past you and you're just reacting to the receiver. Mm-hmm. When you see him catch the ball, then you go at the ball. And I heard Vrabel tell LaShawn Sims, hey, just watch his hands, because his hands are going to go where the ball is to try to catch the ball. Yep. You don't have to watch anything else. Just watch his hands. And so he was out there swatting at his hands while he was trying to catch the ball. So I love that aspect of the deal. Kerry Combs, who's the really fiery guy with the crew cut. Oh, my gosh, guys. He is coaching the fire out of those fellas now. He is coaching everybody. And he is loud, and he really gets with it. So it's a really intense staff, but they're just really teaching. Mm-hmm. They're intense, but they're teachers. As far as like Rashaan Evans, he's got a quiet confidence about him. When you've won that much and you've played at that high of a level in a league like the SEC. Now, he's humble when we talk to him about the NFL, because we've had him on the show and we've talked to him, and I love his humility. And he grew up on a farm, I guess, and comes from a good family, and talks about his mom and dad. Somebody asked him about his first bonus check, and he goes, all I'm interested in is saving. That's all I'm going to talk about.
Sounds like a John Robinson guy to me.
Yeah. Typical John Robinson guy. He sounds like he's 47 years old, and he's 22, which is great, these stable guys that they're bringing in. But I think he's going to be a tone setter. Now, Will Compton is running with the ones, but when you take a guy in the first round, you expect him, to take
be a day one starter.
Take it over. So you expect him to be a day one starter. As far as Harold Landry, just watching him in pass rush drills, the stuff that we've seen, he's a big, big guy. But you talk about the ability to bend and get low around the edge. Oh, my gosh. It's exactly what you want to see from that guy. Sorry, my dog is crazy running circles around me right now. Now she's barking. What is it? Okay, sorry.
You're good.
This is hashtag dad life here.
That's right.
She's stuck under the couch. Hey, come out. You can come out. You don't have to bark. So Harold Landry's bend and his ability to get around the edge. Like, you can hear people oohing and awing while he's doing it. And as far as the rookies, the other rookies, there's an undrafted guy named Akram Wadley.
Yes. Yep.
Who had a draftable grade. And it's funny, there's always one thing that'll, make a running back a first-round pick or a third-round pick or a seventh-round pick or an undrafted guy. And it might be their speed, or it might be, don't have hands or whatever. This guy, I'm telling you, they were doing one-on-one drills, and he had a safety that he had to kind of beat to a certain spot, and he ran right past the guy. And you could hear some of the vets like, dang, Wadley, dang, man, dang, slow down, So he's going to be a fun guy to watch. He's going to give Fluellen all he can handle for that third spot. I love the bond. There's a picture that one of the Titans photographers had put out, and it was on the Titans account. And it's just a real subtle thing, and I caught it during practice. Lawan and Marcus were in individual drills, and they kind of ran over to huddle up to do a couple of 11-on-11 things. And like Lawan kind of reached over and kind of smacked him on the helmet, and they fist bumped each other. And you can just see Marcus has such a great bond with him. Yeah. And that's what you want between a quarterback and a left tackle, because they kind of have to have one heartbeat. But I love that. And, you know, Malarkey was big on team and big on closeness. And you wondered, okay, it's a new coach. How's he going to do things? Will some of that get split up? I don't think it will. This is a really close-knit bunch, and they're going to play hard for each other. One
of the things that I've kind of been wondering about is a lot of times we see, I guess, slant routes or post routes, and a lot of times we see our D-backs back there. They're already turning their backs. I know Noah is not a big Jonathan Cyprian fan. And we picked up Dan Cruikshank in the draft, and I met him yesterday at the Meet the Rookies event. Seemed like a really nice guy. He's just really fit, slender, tall guy. Seems like he can play the position well. What do you think? Where do you think he fits into this defense in his rookie season? And also around Nissan Stadium and St. Thomas Sports Park, August seems to be when it's flu season, because that's when David Llewellyn really picks up his game to keep his third spot. Do you think that Wadley can take over that third spot this year?
Well, it's funny. We've had this discussion around the station because everybody knows my love for flu season. That's my guy. Being a Sun Belt grad, I always root for Sun Belt and MAC and Conference USA guys. If you're a third string running back in the NFL, what do you do on game day? You play special teams.
Not much.
You play special teams. You know, you're on all the special teams. So Wadley could run like, you know, Emmitt Smith, and it wouldn't matter because he's the third string running back if he makes the team.
Right.
So he has to be able to do two things. He has to know the playbook so he could run anything if they put him in, if something happened to the other two guys. And then, well, that's sort of the third thing. The two things he has to know how to do are play special teams and pass protect, right?
Yes.
Pass protect. Because you can't get the quarterback killed, even if you're the third string running back. You have to know your playbook inside and out, even though you don't get a lot of reps. You don't get a lot of reps with the first string guys. You know, you run the dummy defense in practice or the dummy offense, and you run dummy special teams, and then you run your special team sets. But, you know, Derrick Henry and Deion Lewis are going to get all the snaps.
Yep.
So you have to be able to go in cold and produce despite not having run a lot with the ones. And it's kind of a nerve-wracking thing if you think about it, but he's going to have to play really well because Llewellyn's a solid guy, and he'll know the plays, and he's a good special teamer, and he can pass pro. But, boy, Akram Wadley's got a burst. Oh, my goodness, that guy's got a good burst.
Trey, you got anything?
I wanted to get a sense on –
Trey, your Blair Witch Project in this thing, dude. I can see I'm getting busy, man.
Hey, I don't know if you can see behind him though, Mickey. There's a poster behind Noah's head. Noah won a contest back in the day, and you can see that little signature. It's an Odell Beckham Jr. signature of a tweet.
Right behind Trey.
Trey, not me. Trey.
Yeah, Trey.
That's right. I apologize. Yeah,
you're good.
Who's running the switcher here?
Whoever talks gets thrown on to you.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. You guys and your technology.
I got a question for Mickey. Rashard Matthews.
Yeah.
Any idea what's happening there? Because everyone seems to be trying to figure it out. What's going on?
No. I mean, we're just out watching practice, and somebody said, "Why is Rashard? Why is he wearing sweatpants? And where's his helmet?" So we're just kind of watching him. He and Conklin were just out there watching practice. I don't know, and I was late for my show almost. I didn't hear all of what Mariota said. I didn't get to hear any because they ran late, a little bit later than what we thought. But when they asked Vrabel about, what's up with Rashard, he just said, we're shutting him down for a couple days and he'll be available later. That's basically all he said. So we don't know. I do not know. But here's the thing, guys. He's a veteran.
Mm-hmm.
He is probably more athletic than anybody gives him credit for.
Agreed.
He jumps great. He high points the ball great. Mm-hmm. He's probably faster than anybody gives him credit for. I think he's a better player, really, than anybody gives him credit for.
100%.
He just needs to be in the right system. So those coaches are looking at him and they're saying, we don't need this dude to help us in May. We need this dude to help us in October.
So
I think they're just like, hey, stretch that, get rested up. We'll call you when we need you.
And to piggyback on that, Brett, real quick, I think he's the most valuable, consistent receiver on the roster, right? We hope that Corey Davis becomes that, but I think right now he's the most. I've seen some nonsense out there with people saying, "Oh, they're preparing to trade him." It's not happening. It's not happening. I don't know what's wrong with him, but I'd be shocked if he was traded. I think he's way too important to the offense.
Way too important to that wide receiver coach is full of young guys anyway.
Do what about the young guys?
Noah said he's way too valuable to that receiving core who's full of young guys who are still trying to find their way anyways.
Oh, 100%. I mean, Tajay Sharp's in his third year, but he's only played 1 year.
1 year.
Corey Davis, who really came on in the playoffs and has a chance to be really good since he's got a full off season and a full off season with Marcus Mariota. And guys, let me tell you, that dude, I interviewed him after practice yesterday. He's like a human block of granite, and he's 6'3". I mean, I had to hold my arm up in the air to reach the tape recorder or my phone up to interview him. He's got a chance to be special. But right now, Richard's the one true – you guys are right. Richard's the one veteran in the room. I think the only way he would get traded is if it was something to do if there was bad chemistry or if they didn't feel like he was working well with the young fellows. But he's just not that kind of guy. I mean, I think his teammates respect him. And I think he is good with the young guys. What's he got? 1 year left on his deal. He needs to really play well to show, if not the Titans, to show somebody that he's of value for another contract. So I expect a great year from him, and I expect him to have a really good year in LaFleur's offense. Don Davenport and I were sitting in the press box during the Kansas City game, and I complained especially about the last 6 weeks of the season. The Titans threw no checkdowns, no slants, no flat routes, no hooks. Nothing short. Marcus, every pass had to be 23 yards over the cornerback, under the safety, just outside the hash mark. He had to make perfect passes.
Don't remind us, Mickey. That was so bad.
They threw a slant route, and especially in a place like Kansas City, I mean, we're the enemy in their press box. We had to be dead quiet. I was kind of punching Don in the arm like, it's a slant. I've never been so excited to see a 4-yard pass in my life, and they threw like 2 of them. I think with LaFleur, they're going to check it down. They're going to throw slants. And if you're Marcus, what if you throw 3-4-yard passes in a row? Well, how many yards is that? 12. That's a first down, and you got 3 completions. Exactly. As opposed to, hand it to DeMarco Murray to run into the line on first down, and then try to throw it to somebody down the hash mark on second down, and then to try to just run it again or something on third down. They're going to give themselves a chance. And in the Patriots game, think about that, guys. Deion Lewis had, 12 targets and 10 catches.
So many.
They were all check downs. I was there. Yep. It was death by 1,000 paper cuts. And death by 1,000 paper cuts is so great for a quarterback's confidence because that just means he's connecting on pass after pass after pass.
I think that's the biggest thing with Richard is 2 years ago when he came, whenever he came, the first touchdown reception that he had was actually back in Miami, and it was that one where he turned around on his back and caught it going back to the ground, and that was a little out route near the goal line. I think that's honestly, like you were saying, that's the best where he sets up. The only bad play I've ever seen Richard make was last year against Cincinnati when he dropped that touchdown, the touchdown catch on like the 3-yard line. Other than that, he's been the most reliable guy, other than Delaney Walker, for the past couple of years. And I just think that, just like you said, they don't need him to do good now. As long as he's healthy, when the season comes around, I think he'll be just fine.
Well, you mentioned Delaney Walker. He might as well be 25 years old. He was running around in the OTAs. He was diving for balls. And in the NFL, they're professionals. They say, do not get on the ground. Do not dive for balls. Don't be on the ground. That guy's everywhere. I don't know what he's taking, but I need some of it.
No.
We talked about that before. I'm sorry, Trey.
Oh, what were you trying to say? Go ahead.
I was just going to say we talked about this before on a couple podcasts ago. Mickey, me and Trey and Noah went back and forth on this. Just to kind of – it's on topic, a little off topic as well. I personally think that Delaney Walker is probably the best tight end in Titans history. and Noah went with Frank Wycheck. But I just feel like I've seen more produced from Delaney over a longer period of time, and I just want to see what you thought about that.
I think Delaney. I'll disqualify. I think Delaney's more explosive than Frank ever was. I think Frank Wycheck did his job better than any tight end in Titans history.
Well,
catch a little bit.
Frank is my boy,
right?
You know, going way back. So I got to side with Frankie, but I will say this: I think Delaney Walker, if he's not already, you know, by the end of this year, you'll easily be able to say he's the greatest free agent acquisition the Titans have ever made.
Agreed.
Even if we give Frank the number one tight end spot, we'll give Delaney the number one free agent spot.
That's totally fair, because it's honestly still the debate between both of them. You could have many things to say why either one of them is number one.
No, absolutely. But you know, if the late great Steve McNair was here, he would tell you Frank Wycheck, you know, was a big part of making his career.
Right.
Yeah.
Back to your point, Mickey, I'll kind of wrap it up with this, but just when you talk about there's no slants, there's no hooks, there's no curls, anything like that, it was because I feel like the Titans' offense was just so blah. It was just so ugly at all times. So if you go and watch a Pittsburgh Steelers game, Atlanta Falcons, where you see the ball coming out the quarterback's hands very fast to an Antonio Brown or a Julio or, you know, one of these guys they have in between, a Juju Smith-Schuster, you see a lot of quick slants where an Antonio Brown would take off and, you know, catch a 3-yard slant and take it to the house on a 50-yard, you know, ball. And just things like that. I know that's capable of happening with this Titans offense with the Corey Davis, with the Taywan Taylor, with Tajay Sharp. You saw flashes and glimpses of it last year, but on a more consistent level now with this Matt LaFleur offense, I think that we're going to see flashes of greatness from everybody on offense this season. It's going to be crazy that the points – I really think this Titans offense can put up 30 points a game. It's going to be – there's so many weapons. I don't see why we couldn't. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you're right. Now, we had John Robinson on after the draft, and I asked him a pointed question. I said, it felt like every move that you made in free agency enabled you to be so specific in the draft that literally you could draft 4 guys and feel great about it. You basically left yourself 3 needs. You needed a backup safety, you needed a pass rusher, and you needed a middle linebacker that could start. And then the quarterback is a bonus. He goes, that's exactly right. That's exactly what we did. There's no glaring hole on the roster, guys. If you think about it, there's no glaring hole. Now, you might like another guy to compete. I wouldn't mind another veteran wide receiver to come in and compete in that room. I wouldn't mind that. You know, that's one position. You can never have enough defensive linemen. There's a couple of places you can look at and think, okay, they'll probably bring in another guy at some point as other teams cut guys. But there's no glaring weakness. And if they can figure out how to use Derrick Henry and Dion Lewis, if they can figure out how to get the best out of those guys, and by Henry, like, don't run outside. Don't try to cut them all outside. Run some inside. You're a big fella. Nobody wants any of that.
Nobody.
To use those guys, Corey Davis, to make sure that he has his confidence up, because, guys, I'm telling you, just talking to him, he is a force of nature, that guy. He is just a quiet workman guy, but he's got unbelievable skills. Delaney Walker is Delaney Walker. He's a mismatch every time he comes on the field. Rashard Matthews, we talked about him and how underrated. And I think they'll figure out a way to use Taywan Taylor. Guys, he was on a milk carton for weeks last year. I mean, we couldn't find him. And I think they really didn't know what to do with him. I don't know if there were some concepts to the offense that he was maybe just – it didn't jive with him. It just wasn't anything that he just disappeared too much. And he's 6 feet tall. He can run. He's quick. He can go get the ball. I mean, he's a weapon that's underutilized. So I agree, Austin. I think they've got plenty of weapons. And, you know, Marcus Mariota with a full off season – this time last year, guys, he couldn't even run.
Yeah.
You know, and he's out there doing everything. He's doing 11 on 11. Think about how much better his confidence is going to be when he hits training camp at full speed, as opposed to him hitting training camp and them going, okay, now you can start to do some of this stuff.
Right. Mickey, I got something for you, rookie. You're a huge, huge Whataburger fan. I see you tweeting about it all the time. You're always talking about it on 3HL and everything like that. The closest Whataburger to this area is in Birmingham, just on the south side. It's actually in a city called Alabaster. And I only know that because where I go to school during the year, I go to school 10 minutes right down the road from that Whataburger that you're always talking about.
Where do you go? Montevallo or Sanford?
Yes, sir. University of Montevallo. I play golf there.
Okay, I've been there before. That's a great campus.
Yeah, I like it a lot. But yeah, I figured it's just right down that road from the Whataburger you're always talking about.
Mickey, forget the draft coming to Nashville. What do we have to do to get a Whataburger to Nashville?
Think about this, boys. We got it. There are 5. Nashville will be the 5th city in 100 years of the NFL to host the draft, and we can't get a stinking Whataburger. They're in every town in Texas that has.
I used to live in El Paso, Texas, and every corner is a Whataburger. It's insane. I mean,
that's like what heaven's going to be for me.
Jack in the Box here in Smyrna. That's been closed and vacant for 5 years now, and it's empty. It's nothing there. I mean, it's a perfect spot to put a Whataburger. I don't get it.
Well, let's hope somebody wises up and one of us wins the lottery. That's my guarantee to all of you. If I win the lottery, I will, be managing and owning a Whataburger as soon as I can get one built.
I don't doubt that at all. Mickey, it's been a pleasure, sir. We appreciate it so much for you coming on. Again, please follow him on Twitter at MickeyRyan1045. Any guests coming on next week on the show?
Frank Caliendo is supposed to come on with us Tuesday for like the whole 5 o'clock hour. And I'm telling you, that guy is so funny. Anything he says is funny. So that's the biggest guest we've had in a long time. We're excited. He's been on with us before. His Mel Kiper impersonation is worth tuning in for. He's really great.
This John Gruden one side's really pretty funny to me, man.
Yeah. He's great.
So, listen to him on the radio. He's every day, Monday through Friday on 104.5 The Zone in Nashville from 2 to 6. It's still, we're not saying 3 to 6 like it used to be, but 2 to 6 now. So, Mickey, it was a pleasure, sir. Thank you so much for coming on. We'll have to do it again soon, but tighten up.
Tighten up.
Boys, hey, thank you for having me. Holler at me anytime, okay? Austin, you're my guy, whatever you need.
I appreciate it, Mickey.
All right, and next time I'm going to do the whole thing like my guy, just like that.
Yes, do it.
Oh, God.
I'm going to do the whole thing just like that, and I'll be like, yeah. I'm going to be the casual Google Hangout guy. I'm going to get a tweet. I'm going to put up a tweet on the wall. I'll use my McNair jersey, and I'll be like, yeah, man. Yeah.
That's awesome.